Hello again, boys and girls. I hope everyone is having a great time and doing well. So last week we talked about how Jesus appeared to his disciples and his friends, and at first they really didn't believe that he was alive. They thought he was a ghost. Well, there was someone who wasn't there that day, and this story today is about that someone who had a lot of doubt, who did not believe that Jesus was alive, and his name is Thomas. So let's learn about Thomas. We don't know why, but Thomas, one of the disciples, was not with the rest of the disciples when Jesus appeared to them and the two friends who walked with Jesus as they headed to Emmaus. Thomas had not actually seen Jesus. So, when Thomas showed up, the other disciples were so eager to tell him the great big news that Jesus is alive. Imagine that you're talking to Thomas about how Jesus appeared in the room. What would you say? No matter what they said, Thomas couldn't quite believe it. After all, he knew that people don't come back to life after they've been dead, especially not after they've been dead for 3 days. Thomas also knew how much they all wanted Jesus to be alive, so maybe they were imagining things. Or maybe it was a ghost. Jesus coming back to life just couldn't happen, Thomas thought. Thomas listened to all the things they had said, but he could not believe it. He stood up and held up his hands to silence them. He said, "Unless I see the nail marks in Jesus' hands and put my finger on the scars, unless I see his side where they put the spear into it, and put my finger on that scar, I will not believe it." Thomas probably couldn't get it out of his mind. He kept thinking about his disciple friends trying to convince him, but he still couldn't bring himself to believe that Jesus was truly alive. 1 week later, Thomas was in the same house with the disciples again. What do you think they were talking about? The doors were locked. Maybe because the disciples were afraid that some of their enemies would come and find them because they were friends with Jesus. Suddenly, without knocking or unlocking or opening the doors, Jesus appeared in the room. He said, "Peace be with you." Imagine being in that room with the disciples. What is going through your mind when you suddenly see Jesus is standing in front of you again? Almost as soon as he appeared, Jesus went to Thomas and held out his hands. He loosened his robe and said, "Thomas, put your finger here on my hands. Touch the scar. Reach out your hand and touch my side. Stop doubting. Believe." Right away, Thomas knew it was really Jesus, alive and standing in front of him. Did he fall on his knees before Jesus? Did he bow his head in respect? The Bible doesn't tell us what Thomas did, but it does tell us what he said. "My Lord and my God." I wonder what kind of look was on Thomas's face when he realized that it was truly Jesus, alive. Jesus told Thomas, "Because you have seen me, you believe. Blessed are the people who have not seen and yet they believe." That's right. Jesus said, "Blessed are the people who have not seen yet do believe." I have not seen Jesus alive. You have not seen Jesus alive like Thomas did. But we believe that Jesus is alive. And Jesus promises that we will be blessed because we believe it without having to see it. We get to live forever with God.